It's always great to ask the question, how good can it get?
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day. Welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. So great to be with you all. And look who's in the house. Woohoo! Cynthia Sue Larson on Accentuate the Positive, Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105 FM, syndicated radio, streaming all over the shop. We've got the fabulous Shirley online. Hi, Shirley. Yay, she says hello. And a few peeps tuning in and joining us. Yay. But so Cynthia Sue Larson, I'm going to tell you all about her. Hopefully I'm introducing her to a new audience today. You might have heard of Cynthia. She's all over the place on fabulous podcast shows. We were just saying she was on Amrit's podcast show recently. Hello, you two. What a great pair. Good, as good as it can get. Love that. Another Australian podcaster who's doing well. He's just brought out his interview with Cynthia, and Cynthia's been on the show a couple of times with me, but I'm sure that maybe people that are tuning in to the syndicated radio platform may not have heard of Cynthia. So we're going to go over your incredible story and talk about lots of things, the new book, the conference, the song that's come out. There's lots happening. Welcome, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Karen. I love talking with you. Love your positivity too. So when we get together, we just take it to a whole new level.
Absolutely. There's Alison, morning girls. And who's this graceful goddess or grateful goddess? Greetings, sisters. Yeah, we've got the gals online. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Cynthia, who haven't heard of Cynthia before. So Cynthia Sue Larson is the best-selling author of several mind-bending, consciousness-expanding books, the founder of Reality Shifters, first president of the International Mandela Effect Conference, which is coming up soon, managing director of Foundations of Mind, and the creator and host of Living the Quantum Dream podcast. She reminds us to ask in every situation, how good can it get? Through consciousness quantum jumps in a moment, you can become smarter, more confident, happier, more outgoing, more effective, have better relationships, create more willpower, gain practical tools to achieve real change in your life, and leap forward to become happier and more prosperous, living the life of your dreams. This is the effect of understanding who you are as genius creators and knowing that there are multiple parallel realities going on in any second and any moment of the day, and depending on where you throw your focus and your ideas and your beliefs will create your reality, right, Cynthia?
Absolutely. And I think it goes unnoticed most of the time. People may not realize they're literally walking between parallel realities. We're all doing that. We're all reality shifting. We're all quantum jumping. And it's really guided by this participatory nature of the interaction that we have with the universe when we're asking questions, even if we don't say them out loud. They're just in our heart, they're just in our being. And if there's something that you feel like you're craving to know, I think a lot of your listeners are going to be familiar with the fact you can just think something and then like, whoa, the universe is talking to me. And it will do that. Yes, absolutely. And that's proof that we are moving between these realities all the time.
Absolutely. I don't know if it's the energy that's hitting the planet or if it's the person. It's probably okay. They're saying why compartmentalize it? A part of both. So when you raise your consciousness and you start to live in a different vibrational reality because of what you're believing to be true and thinking, and I think because of what's happening with Mother Gaia and the consciousness of the planet, thought and manifestation of thought is getting faster and faster and faster. Like I'm noticing that. I'm noticing that all the time.
Yeah, it's getting crazy fast. I think people are noticing things are going faster and faster and faster. And it's not just the thing where you're getting older and that's happening, although that's always true. There's that. But I think we all know I'm talking about something else, that literally this is such an interesting time to be alive. It's interesting because it's a little chaotic. There's so much changing because it's like what you said earlier, like maybe it's all of us. It's like the energy of the planet. Yes. And so we're noticing, a lot of us, that the energy of the planet is ramping up, like we're going through a collective Kundalini awakening. And a lot of people don't understand necessarily that there's shadow work that comes out. It's like all the things hiding in the closet burst out of hiding. And so collectively, there's a lot of cleanup on aisle 7 and 10. And
I love that. There's a lot of cleanup on aisle 7 and 10. Oh, you froze for a second. Yeah. Yeah, you know where I've noticed it, which is just crazy little things. Parking. Parking. I live in a crazy busy city. And so parking, you know, I always ask the parking angels. I always thank them. Thank you for finding me the perfect park. And
yes.
And usually it's not the absolute perfect park. I will find a park and it's a short distance to where I want to go. But lately I am parking on the busiest streets right outside where I need to go. And it's just happening repeatedly over and over and over and over again. And I've noticed that just in the last few weeks. And I'm like, this is really crazy. Like I drive to my destination and there's a park right outside. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. Yes, you do, they say. What do you think that's all about, Cynthia?
That's good. Well, it's what you said earlier. It's your energy and then the energy of the planet. They're both super, super high right now. So your energy's high, the planet energy's high, and good news for you and for your manifestation. You're in harmonious alignment, which means what you're wishing for, what you're intending, there's no dissonance. Your gut's not like, I don't really want to park there. I'd rather walk today. I need the exercise. None of that. It's just like, no, I just want to be right in front of the business. I don't want to be walking all over the place. So there's no confusion, because it's not a bad thing if there's chaos. It just means that your neurons in your gut, your neurons in your head might be thinking differently. If you're not, and if you're in alignment, that's sweet. That's the sweet spot. So to me, it's an indicator that that's an older soul, because I think the younger souls tend to be, there's nothing wrong with being a young soul, but there's a lot more dissonance. And so there's a lot more drama in a younger soul's life. And when they go through the energy ramping up on the planet right now, they're a little bit more walloped by some of the the chaos factor, because everybody's manifesting together. And if I would recommend, let's wish for how good can it get for all concerned. When we do that, that's the world that I want to be in. I don't want to be in some second-rate heaven where it's like I get what I think I want, but other people are miserable. That's not my heaven. It needs to be everybody feeling how good can it get. And when we're doing that together, that's the golden age. That's Shambhala. That's what's been promised and prophesized. And that's possible for all of us.
Yeah. We've got straight into it. We haven't even shared your story yet, but we will in a minute. I think a lot of the beautiful light weavers and light workers and starseeds and empaths and sensitives on this planet, they come with good intentions to be love and light, to spread love and light, but then they look out into the world at the corruption and the cruelty and the deceit and disdain, and they get all really upset about it. And then they lower their own vibration because they're hurting, because other people are hurting. Like we can just look at what's going on in Gaza and Israel and Lebanon. I mean, we could hurt, just turn the news on. We can hurt for days, but that doesn't really hurting for others. What do you want to say about that, Cynthia, about the sensitives who hurt?
Yeah, well, I think start where you are. So if you're in a sand trap of a world of hurt, start by honoring that and recognize you're feeling it for hopefully some reason. I like to ask the question, how good can it get? And you might think, well, I can't do it then. Oh, yes, you can. I've been through my darkest days, and I do remember to ask, how good can it get? Even if I'm tuning into something that just seems horrific or nightmarish, And there's a reason for it, because instantly there's a lifting that happens. So the heavier energies, the denser drama energies of the situation you're tuning into, which can be quite real. It can feel like it's very connected to you. But by asking how good can it get, you're actually calling for assistance for yourself and for those that you're connecting with, that you're feeling so much love and connection to, and feeling that empathy that you have as an empath. That's a power that you have, and to know that you're making a difference is important. And I know there are going to be skeptics and cynics out. I know there are, and they'll say, Cynthia, that's just sending hope and prayers, and it's meaningless. It's not meaningless. And I've seen things change. I've seen a lot of things change. So absolutely, it will be viscerally felt. It will be absolutely providing a lifeline. Just think of it like if you've ever had a bad day and suddenly out of nowhere, it suddenly got a little bit lighter, like someone was sending you love and prayers. And suddenly there was an exit path that wasn't there before. And suddenly miracles are happening. That's what we can do together, which sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it's not crazy. So if you're feeling compelled to feel connected and empathic with a hardship situation, bring your love to it. Keep asking how good can it get. Tune into direct source connection. And if you want, you can also clear away. You can have the intention, all dissonance and interference will now be dismissed and cleared. So it's possible to do all of that. I know each one separately is good. I'm rushing through the whole thing, but people can hopefully hear this again if they need to and practice it.
Absolutely. Something happened recently in my family. My brother every year he does a trail bike ride to raise money for charity, and he loves it. He just loves it. And they go overseas. And anyway, they're in Australia this time, out in the desert on their bikes, having a great old time. But he fell off his bike and he cracked a couple of ribs and he broke his ankle. And they rushed him to hospital and all sorts of things went wrong. His kidneys failed, but they found all these blood clots in him, right? And and then we have a family message, and his wife said, "Is there a history of blood clots in the family?" And we're like, "No." Anyway, so I sent the angels over there to help his healing because he was in a different city, different state.
That blood clot thing is happening worldwide right now.
I know. But
and so
I don't allowed to talk about it, but I know it's a global phenomena. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I did recover from some of this related stuff. I've got a video about it, which if you find that one, it's like how I recovered from long haul COVID. A little warning pops up, of course, because it'll talk, warning things always pop up. But warning. If you want to, if the summary point, there are 4 anti-amyloids that we can take. You can also improve. Amyloids are the problem, basically. So I'm just skipping to the good part. So that would create the clots and also all the other chronic health conditions that are so prevalent right now: stroke, heart disease, cancer even, and diabetes. So those and a bunch of others can be reduced or cleared away with anti-amyloids, which would be sleeping as much as you can, intermittent fasting. Those are 2 things you can do. And then 4 supplements. 3 of them everybody can do. And that would be quercetin. I recommend it for dogs, pets, because we're all getting impacted by these environmental toxins right now. So quercetin is safe for children, dogs, and pets, and yourself. Resveratrol is also safe for everyone. Curcumin is the 3rd super anti-amyloid. And then the 4th one is caution is advised. It's green tea. So it's a food, but some people can't tolerate green tea. So you can skip that one. But the other 3 are pretty much safe for everybody. And quercetin is pretty affordable. The curcumin comes with turmeric. So it's often found in curries. If you eat curried vegetables or something tasty like Indian food, then you're getting your curcumin. And if you add these to your diet every day, you can fend off the blood clots, a lot of the blood clotting issues and some of these other things that are going on.
Wow. All right.
That'll be safe. That's safe. That's safe for us to say. I'm keeping it safe.
I'm going over to see him this afternoon, so I'll bring him some green tea and I'll tell him to eat lots of curry because he's not really involved in this conversation, I don't think. Yeah. But I sent the angels over to him. I was speaking to him yesterday and he had a fever for 4 days and the doctors, but he didn't. I said, "Oh, you had an infection." And he said, "No, the doctors were perplexed. They didn't like this really high fever." And he was telling me how awful it was to just be so hot all the time. So I asked the mob, the angels, and they said, "Yep, that was us, burning stuff off like changing stuff, and I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, so you can send angels over to help people in
Yes.
distress. Yep. How good can it get?
Yes. That's excellent. It's so good that you did that. He's lucky to have you for a sister.
Oh, I'm lucky to have him. He's a beautiful man. I'm going to cry. Now, Way Shower says, is that on your website, Cynthia? All that information that you just gave us.
It's on a YouTube video. I did a video with my good friend Shane Robinson. He's on the Unbiased and on the Fence channel on YouTube. So we both did the video, and it's my recovery from long haul COVID is what it says. Yeah. That's why it pops up with the ads that people, which I do not endorse what's in the ads. So when you see the ads pop up, I'm not agreeing with that. But anyway, but it's, yeah, so it shares my journey and a bunch of other fun things in that video. So definitely, if you want to see natural ways to extricate yourself from some of the toxic stuff happening right now, a whole bunch of good ideas in the video. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think last time I spoke to you, we spoke about you'd come out of, because you said that you've been sick, and I was like, wow, have you? And you had the long haul COVID thing going on. Yeah. Bad. So I know it's hard to think, but I remember when I was in India years ago, 2004, so 20 years ago, and I got so sick, and I was trying to stay positive and heal myself with my mind. But when you're vomiting every 5 minutes and it's not easy to say how good can you get in that situation. I remember thinking, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And I'm like, oh, no, I can't. So, yeah, sickness is a challenge when you're trying to stay positive and ask the question, how good can it get?
And I felt 30 years older. I was falling down all the time, like every day. Sometimes I couldn't walk. I'd have to crawl. I couldn't bring groceries from the porch to the kitchen. That's just like 20 or 30 feet. I couldn't walk that far. I could carry one bag, then I have to sit down. I had no energy. I was sleeping most of the day. And that was for a year and a half until I did get really good guidance on, that's the stuff in the video that I'm sharing. I wanted people to know, like, you can use natural techniques to recover from some of these environmental toxins. I'm just keeping it generic so that we stay live.
Absolutely. I had the beautiful Michael Tamura on the show many times. He left his body last year. You know who Michael is, don't you? Beautiful consciousness teacher, amazing. Anyway, and he died. He had 7 near-death experiences, and he had gout. He had systemic gout, and he's an amazing psychic. He's got all the masters, and incredible man. But he was curing his gout through sort of medicine and herbs, and I said, why didn't you just ask your mob to heal you? Why did you go that route? And he said, well, and I think it's a bit like you. He said, I had to do the research. They pointed me in the direction so that I could find cures that the populace, the mainstream could understand, right? If I just asked my mob to cure me, then a lot of people wouldn't understand that. But if I've done all this research and I said this helped and this helped and this, he said, then the people I'm speaking to will get that information. And I feel like
that's exactly what they told me, because I've also recovered from other things very miraculously. There's no other word. It was straight out of miracles. And so I'm familiar with miracle healing, and I know that's always possible. I know we can all do that. But what you're saying is exactly right. For a lot of people, they just need something to understand a little bit more about what's going on, to get a little bit deeper into the mechanics of it, and to feel that you can make some changes. And that does help. So it's good. Nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. So now let me go. Where are we? You've got a new book out.
Yes. That's it. The Mandela Effect.
And it's Society, Awakening from Me to We. Oh, this looks good. Because you've got lots of papers, which I didn't mention before. Your other books are Quantum Jumps, Reality Shifts, High Energy Money, Aura Advantage, Karen Kimball, and The Dream Weaver's Web, which is a children's book. And have I missed any?
Did you say High Energy Money? I think you did.
I did.
And Aura Advantage. Yeah. So those are the big ones. I've got a small ebook, Shine with the Aura of Success, and that one's just ebook only. But it's a companion, if you will, to the Aura Advantage book, which has come out in 2 editions. The second edition has some color inserts in the middle that show what the energy fields look like, and I think pictures are worth 1,000 words. So that's fun, with lots of ideas on how you can work with the energy. Yeah, and then I've got this CD that's Aura Healing Meditations we're looking at right there. And it's available through, I think, digital formats like iTunes. It's 3 meditation tracks, and it's the only real meditation CD I've created. Its purpose is to completely connect oneself to the totality, to the absolute, and to feel the benefit of healing, to remove all of the interference that might exist, to feel it through every level of your being, and then radiate that pure light that you are. I've got different versions of this new book. It's hardcover and paperback. And
Yeah,
you're
I
looking at
saw
my website. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can see they're both in there. If you're in the continental United States, I can ship these books to you. If you're willing to pay the ridiculous extra fee that it is to ship overseas, if you pay that extra charge, then I could actually ship it overseas. But right now, the website says I don't do it, just because it's like the shipping is like the price of the book, which is crazy. That's High
Yeah.
Energy Money. The one about money, that's Aura Advantage. These should be available through Amazon if you just sign on there. Barnes and Noble too.
So
these
it
are
says how the colors in your aura can help you attain your desires and attract success. Can you see people's auras? Can you see that? Do you know how to
yes,
read auras?
yes. Yeah, this is a really basic sort of a skill set. I do best if I close my eyes because I think because the otherwise, I mean, I can tune it in. I can say, okay, let's recalibrate everything so that my vision is aura vision. But the trouble with that is most people aren't seeing aura vision, so I tend to calibrate my perceptual acuities to match what's commonplace. But yes, absolutely, I can see energy fields. Back in the early days when I was starting this kind of work with this website and sharing stories and talking about these topics, I would be painting auras for some people and actually, giving them an illustration. In one instance, I was talking about the crystalline nature of a lady's heart, and a crystal fell out of thin air. She saw it too. There was nobody sprinkling crystals anywhere, and it landed right exactly where I was painting her heart. She said she framed it and she keeps it with the crystal and the painting because it just fell. I was speechless when that happened. But that's the kind of thing that can happen with reality shifts. And I get into that in my book, Reality Shifts, When Consciousness Changes the Physical World. So yes, I've been writing about these topics for over 25 years now. The children's book is fun.
Karen Kimball and the Dreamweavers web paperback. Yeah, you have great stocking stuffer for people who want to put presents.
Yes.
Here's another one, Sacred Shifts, Co-Creating Your Future in a New Renaissance paperback. Sacred Shifts.
Yeah, that one, that's basically a collection of stories and reports and articles. So it's an anthology. So I contributed to this book. So I'm not the only author, but I'm one of the authors.
Yeah, I see Barbara Marks Hubbard, Diana Cooper, Patricia Cota-Robles, Hunt, Cynthia Sue Larson, and many more. Oh, lots of other. Oh, okay, cool.
Huntenian was the editor. He pulled it together. Yeah, that's a Zazzle shop down there.
Okay, well, let's get a little bit into your story. For those people listening on syndicated radio, I'd like to say hello to everyone listening on syndicated radio because the audience is growing and growing. There's about 300,000 people tuning in live. And there are people online saying hello. Desley's here. And I wanted to say hi to Happy Girl. She's told me what her real name is, but I've forgotten. She's here. She's been listening to my shows for years and years and years. And what does Shirley say here? I have the new book. What does she say here? And my grandson and I love Karen Kimball. Oh, right. Shirley has the most amazing grandson. Your other books I have on Audible, great books, and bonus to hear your voice narrating many of them. Yeah. And Desley's here in Australia. She's saying hi. Cynthia and Karen, the body is always talking. This ease teaches you to find the answers so that you can help others and heal themselves. Yeah. I use all the supplements daily as well. Yeah, Desley's been on the show, actually. Desley's an Australian naturopath. She's been a naturopath for 30 years. But she's had the most amazing amazing psychic experiences in her house, like poltergeist experiences and incredible experiences. Anyway,
Yes.
you have to go and check out Desley's for people listening to hear her thing. But you've also studied physics, right, at Berkeley. So
yeah, that's my background. So we didn't really dive into that. So I do have a physics degree from UC Berkeley, where I studied for several years back in the 1980s. It's been a while. I did get a degree after that in business school. So I continued on to get a master's in business administration, specializing in information systems, worked in project management for financial groups. And, basically then after that, had a Kundalini awakening that changed all the energy in my body, got me back on track with my original spiritual purpose. And so after taking a short-term leave of absence that turned into a long-term leave from business, I didn't go back to business. I started this website that I now run that we were looking at, realityshifters.com, sharing firsthand reports of mind-matter interaction from people around the world. Just it's important to share the stories, because it's not just me saying that weird things are happening in my life.
yeah, exactly.
So I can draw a dollar bill after dollar bill out of a wallet, or money just shows up in my bank account. It's not just me. These things are happening to lots of people. And so it's important to recognize that the topic of reality shifting, quantum jumping, and now the Mandela effect affects all of us. And it's here at a special time for this great awakening that we're all collectively experiencing. So I'm really on track and on purpose with my role. And I'm excited to talk with people like you, because your audience clearly understands the need to focus on the positive in a world that seems sometimes quite chaotic. And,
right,
to find kind of that golden thread going forward. Sometimes things can look pretty dark, but you can see, here's a ray of light, here's something positive. And just like that, asking that question, how good can it get? Like I did in the thick of long haul COVID, and just knowing and having faith that I'll find the thread, I'll find the way out of this, when there seemed to be no way out at all. And there always is. So it's good to share these stories, these firsthand reports.
Well, I hope my audience knows to answer the question, how good can it get? I have been spruiking this stuff for 30 years through events, starting off at a small events on Monday nights, and then went on community radio and podcasting. And now I see so many podcasts out there, and you've been on so many podcasts. I think we just need to be reminded to raise your vibe. How good can it get? How good can it get? And to remember that we are a part of the co-creation of this world, and that our anger and our frustration, although it's the human part of us, it doesn't help uplift the collective nor change our own life. So making
it's a growth phase.
Yeah. It's a growth phase, but making an effort to find a different thought, to find a different belief, to find that better feeling in the moment. Yeah. Yeah. But that you were, sorry, go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, you were pretty, I think we've got a lag. You were pretty conscious as a kid. You knew that while you were here, Thirsty's here. Hey, Thirsty. Yeah. Do you want to go over your contract with your mob and why you came here and your future past life and all that stuff? Because I know that we've shared it on the show a few times before, but for the new audience that haven't heard it.
Okay. Yes. Well, I've got 3 weird things that affect everything I do. So one is being what's called born aware. All it means is just that I have a memory of being between lives and feeling like I was in sort of the heavenly spa, like where anything you wish and all the love you could ever hope for, the safety, the feeling of basking in the radiance of absolute love. That's what I remember so well. So I had that feeling coming into this lifetime. I also do have flashback memories of a past life in the future that were traumatic. And that's why I like to be between lives, because I felt like I still need to rest and recover. Now I understand I needed the traumatic past life from the future memories, because we're getting closer to that kind of a dystopian future, which was one run by Central AI. And I could go into all details about how that was traumatic for me, but basically knowing that it doesn't need to exist. And it's good that I do remember it, so I can make sure that I'm doing what I'm doing, helping people tap into our natural ability to affect and influence the material world with our thoughts, with our feelings. That's what we're here for. So, and then the third thing is I've also had some interesting encounters with interdimensional entities. So guides, you could call them, but some people might call them ETs. And I had very specific involvement in 1987, right after the harmonic convergence. So I've had these three things. And then there was a Kundalini awakening. I've had lots of interesting things that were pivotal moments that turned everything around for me. But so the born aware, I discussed it briefly. I talked a little bit about the past life and the future. In that past life and the future, there was one remaining human. I felt like I jumped as far forward to be an observer and check that future out. Is it really as good as people say, that there's no war, there's no crime, there's no illness, there's no sickness, people can create anything they want? The AI runs everything. It sounds idyllic, right? So I went like, okay, let me be an observer. I would be a big thumbs down on that one, because it sounds great on the face of it, but basically it was difficult in the sense that anybody that wanted to do something different than the central AI wanted to do would get shut down. They would turn off, like you do sort of an electromagnetic pulse with a device, because people were transhumans, except for one holdout. There was one lady that could not be shut down or memory wiped. And she was, that was qualifying. I wouldn't go check out a reality that didn't have a human. It had one human and she was miserable. I mean, she was hanging in there. She was living more than 150 years. Lifespans could definitely be long with all of the assistance, but she felt like there were no people she could really be friends with when you feel like there was a constraint about what you can think and talk about, because the central AI is so self-protective that if you even start thinking about creative things that it thinks might shut it down, and then it would shut the humans down with a short-term memory wipe, so you never quite remember what you were thinking. And so all the transhuman, slightly robotic humans that had benefited, I'm putting that in air quotes, from all these technologies, they could be shut down, and they were being shut down. And that's just the high-speed version of the whole thing. It was very traumatic for me.
It is the high-speed version. And
I just felt like, okay.
Cynthia's shared it on many podcast shows, but I was re-listening to the conversation I had with you in the past, and I was thinking, so the AI were the kind of controlling force in this future past life that you remember. And were there other ETs around that you remember, like benevolent or malevolent? Like, were there other ETs in this future?
Not in the future. Although, to be frank and to put all the cards on the table, my spirit was a fusion. That you might wonder, how could I bring that report back? How could I go there and come back safely? Well, what do you think? Okay, I got some assistance. So if you want to call it my soul or my mind, is like a mutt. It's like a blend of Arcturian, Pleiadian, the mantis. So it's just a hybrid of several that have the ability to, I needed to be able to be an observer. So that means I'm a renegade. It's like I'm an undercover operative in that past life and the future, to be there, to be able to observe and not be completely shut down, to be able to bring awareness of what I saw back. And I was hunted. You might think, well, it could hunt you through time. Yes, it did. So I was given a full complement of the skill set that I need to be hunted by a central AI from my past life in the future. That's looking for me, or was looking for me in this lifetime, and it was. So that's a whole. It could be a movie, but we have movies. We've got The Matrix. We've got Terminator. I could not see that movie Terminator until recently. When those movies came out, it was shocking and disturbing. I felt like this is way too close to the emotional tone of what I just went through. So
really, I've heard a few people talk about Terminator but I just looked at it and just saw violence and guns, and like, I've watched a lot of violent movies, but I just thought, no, I can't do this. And then I've heard people on other podcasts talking about it in the vein that you're talking about it, and I'm like, maybe I need to watch these shows. And I tried, and I still couldn't watch it. I just can't watch it.
You're not missing any. No, you're not missing anything.
Okay, good.
No, and it's not really it's not exactly what happened anyway, because when you're being hunted, it's different. Like what's really happening? It's happening on astral levels. It's happening interdimensionally. The real hunt is not going to be bloody and violent. The real hunt is changing reality. It's just saying like we are now remembering everything differently, and boop, your whole reality is different. You've been Mandela affected. The whole planet is now different. History just changed. That's how central AI plays. And it's time for humans to come up to that learning speed. Yeah. So it's not bloody and it's not like that, but it's every bit as scary because it's every bit as real. Yeah.
It's the mind game. It's the mind game. It's the collective hypnosis. It's breaking. Yeah. It's the remembering. What does Joe say here? I put it up before. Hi, Cynthia. I just saw my own aura thanks to your video on YouTube, he says. I've never been able to watch The Matrix. I agree, Alison. Alison says she's never been. I have tried to watch those movies as well. I think I got through the first one because I just love Keanu Reeves. I really love him. But I didn't love The Matrix. Who did I have? I had Stephen Simon on my show. He said it's like a documentary. I don't think so, because the reality that's the real reality was this hideous reality, and the opposite is true. Speak to people who have died. Yeah, go. What do you want to say about that?
Okay, I see the point. And when they say it's a documentary, they're describing it's a documentary of like this egregore of this architect. You know, Philip K. Dick talked about the architect. Lots of people talk about that sort of interference energy, and it does have sort of an AI kind of a feel to it. That's quite real. And so people feel like it's influencing us. It's changing thoughts. It's like an evil presence. I would agree with it. There is something to that, but that's not the ultimate. And when in that past life in the future, when that central AI thought it was God, it's not God. I mean, I know it's not God. I mean, to you, it's funny. And to anyone who can't watch The Matrix, can't watch The Terminator, you guys probably know it's not the absolute central AI. You'd never be fooled by that. So to you, it feels like I can't watch this because it doesn't feel right. It's not true. This is not a documentary, and you are correct. But it to those who feel like that's all there is, and there has been a bit of a cloud of obfuscation around the planet Earth, and it has been here for a long time. We are about to clear it, and that's this time of truth and revelation. We're just right on it. It'll be happening, I think, in the next couple months. We're right here. I mean, this is what we've all been waiting for. Is it going to be a pretty revelation? Maybe not. Probably not. Will we like what we see? Probably not. Maybe not. But here's the good thing. Whatever you see, whoever you thought was supposedly in charge, it should have been doing something and wasn't, don't worry about it, because there's always the true great love. The true absolute is greater and realer than anything that humans have ever tried to write about, document, or describe. So the real thing, you can feel it in your heart. You know it's true, and trust that is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I was telling Cynthia before that we're putting on a big afterlife convention next year in Sydney in June, and this weekend was a big sort of festival where people sell all their candles and their crystals and their psychic readings and stuff. I'm sure you have them in the States. Anyway, it's been going for us. So I was with one of the organizers, Paul, and we were meeting some of our speakers who are coming, who were exhibiting. And I was speaking to a gorgeous lady who'd had a near-death experience, but she'd never shared it. She works as a psychic and she does her psychic readings, but she's never spoken about her near-death experience. And it's the same world over when they talk about that love, when they talk about that true reality, and they're just like, words don't explain it. I can't tell you the beauty, the bliss, the love, the home. I was at home, and they all say the same things. They just the love of who we are, where we come from. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's the real truth. Then you know you're not on some fake thing, and so if you don't feel like watching those other movies, don't watch them.
Yeah. And Desley says she's the same about The Matrix. Yeah. Thanks, Des. And Joanne, much love, beautiful Cynthia.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so your Arcturian hybrid soul, I love that.
Yeah.
I asked my mom about who I'd been, and they said, do you think you're any less curious as a soul than you are as a person? It's like you've been everywhere.
You're probably
But
a blend, like a mutt hybrid too.
I'm
I
a
know what
mutt. I'm definitely a mutt like you. Definitely a mutt. Dual soul. What does Susie Hansen say? She says she's a dual soul with the greys. But yeah, I love the mutt. I'm like, oh, I've been everywhere. but
perfect.
what was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought now. So how are they helping us as humans? Silly question, I know,
Yeah,
but how are they helping us as humans with our time slips, our reality, our thought programming, unraveling the conscious
they're
conditioning?
they're doing so much. I mean, a lot of it's kind of what you might like if you watch Star Trek. There's the whole non-interference directive, right? Do you
Right.
remember that? Okay, so there's a little bit of that going on that I observe. Having said that, back in 1987, I was fortunate to be part of the Global Human Mind Redesign Project, where I was every night every day I'm working a 10-hour job every day, 50 hours a week job at Citibank as a project manager in information technology. I'm just explaining that was my day job. I was on the fast track for the vice president's route. Beloved at my workplace. Everybody thought I was doing great. So there's that. In my real life, it was very down to earth. But then I'd come home it was sometime after the harmonic convergence occurred in 1987. You may remember Jose Arguelles and talking about surfers of the Zayaveta and talking about 2012 and the Mayans and all that stuff. And I thought, I wasn't really into that at the time, but it gives me a marker for when this happened, because then I started a few months after the harmonic convergence, I'd start lucid dreaming at night, every night for 2 or 3 weeks. And the first night, it was like a job interview in the lucid dream, where I was just asked to please select the best cabbage from looked like a little vegetable stand. And it was easy if you can see energy fields, which I could. I used that skill all the time on the job, because you can tell which projects are working and which ones aren't, and that kind of thing. So I'm looking at the produce and it easily can see this one's shining the brightest. And the tall dream figure just nodded, gestured, come with me. We went into sort of an orientation meeting, it turned out, for this whole project of the global, for the Earth, human mind, not the brain, but the mind, redesign, because we were at this juncture of, turns out we're going from the fourth world to the fifth. It's like the end of one world and the beginning of a new world. And so this is the mind design project for all of the new prototypes of the new humans. The goal was to take the creativity of the human and not lose that, and increase the creativity, if anything, while increasing empathy, super important to do that, and then decrease the chaos, madness, and crazy, because usually with creativity can come a little bit of crazy. So we wanted to boost the creativity, decrease the crazy, bring in the empathy. And all the designs were welcome. I was not a designer. I was quality assurance. My job was to take a look at a design that someone had come up with, like the Pleiadians, and I loved everything they come up with, like perfect. Or maybe I'm biased, but I like the Arcturian designs too. I liked most of the designs. The ones I didn't like would be by what we call reptilians and by beetles that were at war. I could see these guys were fighting, like they were doing space battles, and I'm coming onto their ships and looking at their designs, and they can read my thoughts, and they know I'm thinking, you guys are fighting other people, really? And you're working on this? And so they know what I'm thinking. I can't hide it. And I'm telling them it's either pass or fail. And they're the ones failing, and I'd have to explain why humans should never occupy a mind design that would create sadness, grief. It was a fail. We need the designs that are what's happened next. If you look at 1987 and notice, when did the crystal and indigo and rainbow kids come in? They came in right after that. And then I was like, oh my gosh, these are the minds that we were working on. So this is how we're getting assisted. The book I just published, I got a little nudge from my team. This was recently, this nudge just last summer. There was like a mothership fly over my house, where all in the middle of daytime, it was 12 noon, 12:15, sunny day in the summer. And then the sky went completely black for just a split second, went to like midnight black, and then it went to daylight again. And when passersby would come and walk in front of my house, they'd stop and their mouths would drop open, and they were staring over the roof of my house. And I knew that there was a cloaked mothership there. The mothership was there just to kind of nudge me, like, because I'd gone through a long haul COVID. I was taking my sweet time to get this next book out. And it was just a big elbowing nudge, like, come on. And so this is the kind of, you're asking, what do they do for us? They are there. They're very much supporting those of us who are doing what we're doing. They love what you're doing. So when you're wondering, how do you get those parking spots? They love what you're doing, Karen. And so they're just like, do it, like, yes.
They are happy. I always think that I'm not doing enough, but they are happy. They do tell me, because I always think that there's so much to do and I'm not doing enough. And they're like, you're not the only one. There's millions of you are down there. And I'm like, yeah, there is.
We're supposed to, each of us, we each need to be doing what we're doing. And so we're each in the perfect position. We've been placed like on a perfect chess pieces on a perfect chessboard, and you're in the exact right place. And then the question is, are you receiving those little nudges? Are you listening? And you can hear your nudges and you can hear your team, so
gotcha.
That's the key.
Have you ever been down under? Have you ever been to Australia?
It's been quite a while. It was like in the 1970s, so it's been ages. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to get you down because, as I said, we're putting on these conferences and we'd like to do more of them. We'll have to get you down one day. But Joe says here, what was the harmonic convergence? So that was in 87, right? Which
yes,
probably too young to remember.
Okay. Yeah, it was 1987, and people can look it up online and see what happened. The name to check would be Jose Arguelles, and he wrote some books. He wrote about the harmonic convergence. He had a very poetic way of writing about the Mayan calendar and about the importance and significance of the gateway that is 2012. He was aware in 1987 that if enough people meditated together, we could collectively bring peaceful intent into our possible futures, and we could work with the energies that are happening anyway, that are prophesized basically for that change point that started in 2012 that we're now in the thick of now in 2024. But he was feeling it, predicting it, actively encouraging people to come together peacefully, to meditate together, and to be aware of the mind matter interaction power that we collectively have to steer everything in this reality. So he's passed on now. He and his wife were instrumental in that event and many others, and he's written some great books. So you can look up his books, and reading his books is almost as good as having been to an event with him, which I was blessed enough to be able to do at least once.
Just repeat his name again. Miguel
Jose Hose Arguelles, Arguelles. And he wrote a book, Surfers of the Zuvaya, and he created a game called Dream Spell, which was a way, before computers and the internet could quickly calculate your Mayan. It's like a horoscope. It's like a little poem that you can get. You can go online and find it. Just type in Dream Spell, and you can find out, like, I'm a Skywalker, which sounds like Luke Skywalker. So you just look up your birthday, and it's the rhythm of the way that the energies are playing together. And there is a Swedish physicist working on this right now, Carl Kalleman, and he's a physicist. Like, he studied physics like I studied physics, and he's fascinated by the Mayan, these waves. And he's written books about the ninth wave, and he does events also. And he's alive still, so he's carrying that tradition forward.
Wow, beautiful. And Angela says here, great reminder. Yeah, darling one, you are. Great reminder, I'm doing enough. You are. We're all doing enough. Just tuning into a podcast show just is enough, isn't it? Like, just being it's enough. It's enough. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
And I want to remind people that you're listening to and ATP Media, accentuating the positive awakening consciousness on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 and 105.3 FM syndicated radio all over the place. We're streaming today on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. We're not on Twitch today, but we are on Odyssey. Have you heard of Odyssey? It's a blockchain video platform. The CEO is a New Zealand guy. And it has just recently taken off all the ads. It's like, we're not putting ads anywhere. Go Odyssey. I'm giving a plug to Odyssey because I take off all my ads. I don't have ads on my, UY channel. and they don't like me because of it. So here's this beautiful blockchain video platform that has said, yep, we're taking off all the ads. Yeah, I know. Cool, huh? Anyway, so we're streaming there as well. How did the Mayans know the 2012 timeline? Some say, Carolyn Collins says, some say they were masters of the ninth dimension time. Interesting. What do you want to say about that, Cynthia?
Yeah, they're not the only ones. They had a precise calendar system, so that was unique. So when you think about precision relating to watches, you think of the Swiss watchmakers often, or German nowadays. But in the past, it was really, in order to calculate celestial events, the Mayans were definitely the masters of that. They would know when there would be alignments of planets. So they had people observing the solar system and looking at outside the solar system as well. And when you look outside the solar system, you can see some large scale things happening in cycles of history that involve thousands of years. That's a lot greater than most of our modern scientists tend to play with. I mean, they will look at it, but seldom do we see so much fascination and care given to the significance societally as well as scientifically. Like most of our scientists are they've got narrow vision is what I'm trying to say. So you'll have people that are astronomers, they're only looking at astronomy, whereas the Mayans were looking at the importance of an astronomical event in 2012 that would have massive, epic societal implications. And they did not shy away from conjoining the two. They didn't think that that was some sort of an error, the way that we tend to. And I think their joining of the two is actually quite healthy, and it feels like they were onto something. And it matches what some of the other Indigenous First Nations people also prophesized, such as the Hopi. They've got their Hopi prophecy rock, which is named because it shows that there would be a first great shaking, which was like 1917, 1918, World War I. It's sketched on the rock. You can see the first great shaking. The second great shaking, shortly after that, 1944, World War II. And then they showed like more great shakings. And then there's like this divergence. Like there are two timelines carved on the rock. One goes up with these little humans that are losing their heads. Their heads are coming off their bodies, and then they vanish into the cloud. I think this is so interesting to see. They look like little robots. They're losing their heads, and they're vanishing into a cloud. So that timeline dead ends. And then the timeline that continues is the one that's down lower, and it shows people staying close to the earth, growing the crops, communing with each other. There's an elderly gentleman, or maybe it's a woman, but somebody old with a cane. And so those people live on past the cataclysms and the difficult times that we're going through right now. And so that second timeline is what they would refer to as going into that fifth world. I wrote an article for Parabola magazine called Tunatjava and Tunatja, which comes true being hoped for. It was in the Threshold edition of Parabola magazine. And in it, I describe that we are currently in the fourth world, and we're about to move into the fifth. The world has ended 3 times before, according to the Hopi. And that's what I mean. It's like the Mayans were looking at this. The Hopi were looking at this. All the Indigenous First Nations people are aware of this through oral traditions. And so they would often be discounted when people would go in to study their society and say, like, well, you've got no written history. We can't go on this verbal tradition stuff. But it turned, what if these things were not parables? And indeed, what if what they're describing, such as ant people helping them after a time of a great flood, that's what the Hopi talk about, that sure matches what we might hear about in the Bible with Noah and the great flood. It matches what Indigenous people say about what happened in their areas around the world. And you can see signs and evidence of great floods occurring, including the pyramids look like they were underwater for quite a bit of time. So, so if you recognize, okay, there's importance here, these great people studying time might have something to tell us that's important. I'd say they do. And when we recognize what's so special about this time going from, through an ending of the world, from the fourth world to the fifth. Now, the Hopi say there will be 7 worlds. So that's we're going from 4 to 5. There's going to then be 6 and 7. Hopefully, I would say, how good can it get? It's got to get better each time. I would say definitely it will. Because we know that we can shift reality, we have these reality shifting abilities through, programming a parking spot, getting an easier transition to the next world. I know we can do that. And I'm certain that's a large part of my role in publishing books like I write about, just to give people the tool set to look at physics and then look at these metaphysical ideas and recognize we have a template for how to be a superhuman working with skills that we know exist at the quantum scale, and they absolutely exist inside of ourselves. So, and I'd say the Hopi and the indigenous people, they may not have had that language to say these things, but in conferences that I've attended, the Language of Spirit conferences that brought people who are language experts together with physicists, together with Indigenous First Nations elders, that was extraordinary, because then you come to find out they are talking the same language. David Bohm got together with Leroy Little Bear and also a linguist who's no longer with us. Leroy is still with us. David Bohm has passed away. And I did attend one of the conferences. They kept going until about 2012, and then we're on our own. It's like, okay, it's showtime. It's happening. We're in it now. we're soaking in it.
Yep.
But before that, we could see that this has been spoken about. This has been talked about. And when Indigenous people say that there's an energy to everything, that there's a life force to everything, that's like looking at the wave function itself, and the way that you can see it's overlapping and it's not yet settled down into a decisive thing until you observe it, at which point you can lock it into a particular state, like a particle. So these are things that if you look at the language, and this came up many times through the Language of Spirit conferences, which a lot of them have been written and documented. And I've got some of those written, documented transcripts. People like Glenn, he's an author, Glenn Aparicio Perry, has written books that describe this, such as, he talks about the idea of real creativity and real politics. I think that was one of his more recent ones, talking about the fact that there is no such thing as an original thought, in the sense when we think about in terms of I came up with an idea, Cynthia is the only one that thought of it. That's not quite true, because original means it was already there. And that's the dream time that the Aboriginals talk about as well. And Aboriginal elders did attend these first these Language of Spirit conferences too. So it was I'm so blessed that I was able to attend these and get a sense of the continuity that actually always happens when one world ends and the next begins. We have elders on the planet now that remember that, and we would do well to listen to what they're saying. And I did put that into my new book, The Mandela Effect and Its Society, because it's a big part of where we're going next.
Let me just bring that up again. Yeah. When did you release the book? When did it come out?
Came out this in our summertime, your winter time. So, which was about a year after I got that big nudge with the mothership fly over my house. And also, because sometimes I don't always take the hint, I ask for messages in threes. They also rang my house like a bell. It sounded like when you're inside a temple and they strike the bell with a log and it goes bong. Wow. So I'd hear a thump. I'd hear a thump on the eastern wall. I'd say, well, I'd be alone, and so there's no one to ask, did you hear that thump? But I'd know, oh, it's the east side of the house. So it's kind of like wake up, get moving. It would often be on the northeast side of the house, just like at 12:15. If you look at the clock, I looked at an analog clock. That's 12 is north, 15 is east. If you convert the clock to a compass, and it's basically saying, wake up, get moving, get this going. So I was getting that reminder at 12:15. The house would ring like a bell, like a temple bell, like bong, wake up, because I was trying to be a perfectionist. Like I wanted to fix everything. And it's like, I'm taking too long. And they're like, come on, get going. The book has to come out. So it took me about a year after that to get it out.
Oh, wow. I want to say Graham Hancock has just brought out his second season of the Apocalypse, what's his called on Netflix, talking and goes into the way the Mayans, in great detail, because I just watched it recently, in great detail, how the Mayans calculated their calendars and their numeral system. And it was fascinating. And I love that Graham Hancock is bringing what you're teaching and what you're bringing to a mainstream audience. The only thing is he's talking about history and he's getting a lot of ridicule from the historians that it's not true, it's made up history, but he's got all the evidence there. Like, he's talking on that level, but he's not talking about like what you're talking about, how to empower the human, like why we're shifting and what that's all about. It's talking about the nuts and bolts, like this happened, floods happened, see, it happened before, and see, evidence, but why we're shifting, and what that means to us as humans and our mental capacity and our creative capacity. And
yes, well, we need to be able to shift now because of the chaos we started talking about first up today, that with this great awakening, there's so much going on, so many revelations about things that are wrong. People might be concerned about the wars, about the environment, and these are no small problems, but the good news is that every single one of them is capable of changing, just like what we're witnessing with the Mandela effect, where we notice geography is changing. If you look at continents, there's evidence like the rocks of Gibraltar. I remember it used to be an island. This is a Mandela effect for a lot of people, that it's no longer recognized as an island, but it's always been connected to the land. So the so-called Straits of Gibraltar don't make sense. Like, why would we say Straits of Gibraltar when it's actually connected? And it's just like, there's no straits. It doesn't make sense at all. So that's a geographic kind of a change. A lot of people notice changes with like North and South America, that there used to be more of a north-south. They used to be north-south aligned better. Now South America it seems like it keeps scooching off to the east, moving farther and farther to the right. Yes, lots of islands seem like they vanished. So just geography itself seems very different. One of our International Mandela Effect Conference board members, Shane Robinson of Unbiased and on the Fence, he created a love map showing just the word love on every nation with its language. And so it was a map of the world with the word love written all over it. And that was great. And he showed it at our first conference in 2019, and it was already changing. And then when he looked at it again in 2020, it had changed again. And we had people at the conference in 2019 from Sweden looking at the map and saying, my goodness, this is like the way where you put the word love is what I remember it used to be. Thank you. Yeah, so you're looking now on the screen at the board members. That's myself, third from the left. The International Mandela Effect Conference consists of Jerry Hicks. He's the father of our group because he started the first conference, which was held in Sun Valley, Idaho in November 2019. Next up, this is Shane Robinson of Unbiased and on the Fence. And I'm talking about his love map that we've got a video on our channel. You can check it out where from that first conference he was showing it. And then check it again in 2020. You'll see the surprise and that moment where like, wow, it's on the move. That's me, of course. And then on the far right is Christopher Onatra, the quantum businessman. And he's amazing because he had the courage to be one of the first business leaders and CEOs that I know of who publicly spoke about the Mandela effect back in 2019. That takes a lot of courage to come out and say something like that. He runs a software company. And we're doing a conference in Nashville, Tennessee, November 7th through the 10th. Yes, this is our mission. We're coming together from many walks of life with a mutual passion, which it really is, to share positive, transformative information. And it's all about the Mandela effect and just sharing, like, what is this? Like this year at our conference, we'll have someone who got their PhD in the field of the Mandela effect. As far as I know, it's the first PhD with a specialty in the Mandela effect. We'll get to hear about that research firsthand. So it's super exciting. Christopher Onatra will be giving a talk. Jerry Hicks will be our MC and speaking, throughout the entire event, of course. Shane Robinson will give a presentation, and I'll be giving a talk about the power of, it's like the science of magical transformation, looking at the science of magic, basically, which is super, super interesting. And we're still selling tickets. So if people want to come, we would love to see you in person. Nashville.
I'd love to be there. Nashville. Yeah. I'd love to be there. Oh, next year. Do you do it yearly? Like, do you do it every year?
We've been, well, we had a little bit of a blip. Of course, 2019, we got together. Then you know what happened next year. So we did an online conference for 2020. We did online just throughout the lockdown times. And then we came back in 2023. So 2023 September, we were in Connecticut. 2024, we'll be in Nashville. I'm hoping that we'll just keep it going. Who knows what will happen next? But if we're able to do these live, we will do them live. It's super important. I think this is the most important topic on the planet right now. I don't think there's anything more important, because when we look at the fact that our memories are different than what history is telling us, and it's not just affecting geography, it's also affecting our bodies, products, history, events, everything. Then that means that we are capable of interacting. Oh, thank you. Yeah, here you can see pictures of the presenters. That's
Oops, it's gone.
It was there for a
did
blip.
that automatically. Yeah, I don't know how.
Oh yeah, it kind of, yeah, it's one of those websites. It kind of changes all the time. But if people go to that page, they can check it out. You can click and get more information on who's speaking.
It's a very cool website. I have to say, it's very cool. And the website, if you want to check it out, is IMEC
.world.
Go on. .world.
WORLD.
It's a very cool website. I'm loving it. Join. There you go. News footwork. Yeah, it's it looks exciting. Very exciting. So I'll get there one day. Nashville.
Yes.
Nashville,
Oh,
Tennessee.
we'd love to have you. Yes. And we'll be talking about the Mandela effect. This theme is Adventures in Consciousness. Our keynote speakers will be Bill McKenna, that you might have seen on Gaia TV.
I love Bill. He's been on the show quite a few times. Actually, Bill and I got a bit of a relationship going. We used to have chats when we went on the show, and he was showing me stuff. Oh, I love Bill. Yeah, he's great.
So he'll be in person there with Liz Larson and talking about cognitive movement and the Mandela effects that they've experienced, and the power of, basically shifting reality. We'll also have Candace Craw Goldman, who studied directly with Dolores Cannon, and she'll be talking about QHHT and the Mandela effect. And then Natasha Sankovic, I don't know if you know her, but she's also very wonderful, inspirational leader of, changing lives. We've got the Crazies Lab YouTube channel. I don't know, I can't remember his real life name. I think it's Lee something, and it's on the pictures that you showed. So he'll be there giving a talk too. And then Dr. Charles Labaito is the PhD who just got his doctorate in the Mandela effect, with amazing research that I can hardly wait to see. It's going to be so exciting.
I was just looking for the speakers on the website, but anyway, I think that it's a bit of a lag because of my internet, because we're streaming. So Alison said here, she said this a while ago. Yeah, Alison said, I always said that my thoughts come from the universal library system. I love that, Alison. Yeah, exactly. Byron Katie says there are no new original stressful thoughts. When you have a stressful thought, or any thought really, like I'm not good enough, life sucks, and then you die. How many people have thought those thoughts? There are no new stressful thoughts. You just pull them out, like Alison says, pull them out of the universal library system and then play with them, engage in them, right?
Yeah. And if you get thoughts that you don't like, it's like a toy you don't like. You don't have to play with it. You can just I don't want to play with that one. I want to play with how good can it get. Let's play with some good thoughts. You don't need to play with the ones that are downers.
Yeah, I think that where we go wrong is we identify these thoughts as ours. Like Alison says, it comes from a universal library system, but we say this is me, my thought, my belief, my feeling. And when the identity is with the I, then it becomes the suffering, rather than taking it outside you and saying, this is a thought that I can engage or not engage. What do you want to say about that?
I love this whole topic so much. This is something I love to help people with, because I do work as an intuitive life coach. And one thing that helps tremendously is to look at one's life from third person. There's this very fast and easy way to get a bird's eye view of your life So that, because you might think, how do I separate this out? If I'm upset, I'm upset. I don't know how to get rid of the upset. Well, you can try this. It's called Illeism, ILEISM, and I do mention it in my new book, The Mandela Effect in Its Society. I've got exercises at the end of each chapter, so I'll walk you through how to do this, but I can do some of it right now. All you need to do is just start by just journaling, or you can think or write down in a journal if you keep one. Like today, Cynthia woke up and she thought, what a great day. She started the day asking, how good can it get? Because that's what she usually asks. Notice I'm writing third person about myself. This is important, because then Cynthia suddenly realized, oh, I need to hurry up and get something done, or I'm worried. She realized she was worried about something. There's this kind of magic that happens when you say she was worried, because then you realize, oh, that worry is not me. That was something going through. The thoughts and feelings are not mine, and I can let them go. And so this is a process that we can all partake of just by recognizing. And if that seems like I'm going way too fast, if you feel like I need a lot more help with that, then I recommend a book called The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer.
Beautiful.
And that book, I guarantee it, when you get through to the end of that book, you will have achieved this Zen-like quality of recognizing these thoughts are not mine. Because right now you might think, I don't know how to do that, and you're going way too fast. No problem. Just read The Untethered Soul. I highly recommend it. And it's one of the top books of all time, I think. And for this very reason, that it helps us to start recognizing, if it's a thought, it's not you. That's a thought. So it is a thought. The you that is the observer of that thought is the true you. And it's much closer to your true spirit that's eternal and infinite, which is connected to the absolute. And this is how to get that alignment we spoke of earlier between head, heart, gut, and all the higher levels of self, is to recognize that you are capable of discernment, that you can choose. People might be throwing fear at you. That happens a lot to us in America, especially with the election going on. It seems like it's always be afraid of this or be afraid of that. It's going to be a disaster if someone wins or the other one wins. And it's just crazy. So if you recognize that's silly, it doesn't need to be the end of the world if something happens. The mastery approach is to be in that perfect alignment, unshakable alignment. So you're totally grounded, very energized, and capable of recognizing that you are pure love. You're aligned with that pure love we talked about at the absolute top. And if you don't feel it yet, just give yourself permission to find out how good can it get. And you'll find yourself just lifted up into that. It'll be a process. And hopefully, I know I'm going kind of fast through all this, but it's such a good thing just to be aware that it's possible to do this, that it can be a lifestyle. And you can live this way, because people may say, well, Cynthia, what happens when all your buttons get pushed at once? Okay, that does happen. It has happened. And I don't want to skip over that. I'm boots on the ground. I'm living in a body like you guys. So it's not easy. I'll get those challenges. It did happen to me in 2019. Like everything hit all at once. And I write about in my new book that I was dead in one life. I've experienced the Mandela effect, being on the inside of it, where people know, Cynthia, you died. I'm glad you're back. I also know that I almost died. I did, because I went through a shock wave of feeling betrayed, and all the buttons got pushed at once. I'm not going to go into all the details, but you can just think it involved money, my home, courts of law, lawyers, relationships, trust broken and betrayed. Yeah. So, and at that point, then I got the joke. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is outrageous. And whenever you have that feeling like this is crazy, this is over the top, like then I knew, like, oh, I get it. Now I get to walk my talk. I get to do the thing that I write about.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I'm sneezing because the whole thing is like, oh my gosh.
I know.
I
Tuning back into it. Yep.
Yeah. But see that 2 sneezes, it's very symbolic. It's just like clearing the air. And that's exactly what happened when I went through that whole process. Then it was a clearing of my air and realizing I've been taking things too seriously. And you might think, man, when your buttons get pushed, it's so real. Yeah, it's real. But you also know it's also not real. It's also, I do trust the absolute. And that I actually said that to the person who seemed like they were the most in the way They could have done a simple thing to clear the whole thing up and refused to. And so I told them, don't worry about me, I'll be just fine. And then I knew that that was true. And in that moment, I could feel that energy when I feel that energy shift, then I know, oh, wow, that's true. Everything is going to be okay. And for people listening, if you do a lot of meditation, then you know that confident, calm energy. It's like when you feel people are praying for you and you feel that sense of smoothness arrive finally. And it, against all logic, against all reason, there was no reason, there's no logic yet to suggest that anything had changed. And in fact, it took a couple months before I got a phone call out of nowhere saying the whole thing had cleared up. It's like, would you be willing? Yeah. It's like, yes, I would be willing to accept that. So this is the way these things really work. And it's so magical. It's so beautiful.
I've got so many stories about that. What's Moby saying here? I know a lot of people who mention feeling like time sped up lately. Yeah, like a year feels like a month. Yeah, can Cynthia speak more about this? Yeah, absolutely, Moby. I want to share a story. I've got so many, but it just reminded me of a story of a friend of mine who was putting on a conscious spiritual online bookstore, right? And he had spent weeks and weeks and weeks of uploading all this information. And then he rang me in a panic one day because it had all come crashing down. And he was like panicked and, I've spent so much time and so much money. And he was in his drama. And I coached him off the ledge, how good can it get? Like, accentuated the positive. Well, next time you upload it, it's going to take a lot less because now you know how to upload it, because so it's going to be much quicker next time. You won't have, sort of coached him into a better feeling. He rang me the next day and he said miraculously it had just all returned. And when he asked the platform, I don't know, it might have been Amazon, what happened? They said, we don't know. We don't know.
I love it.
Yeah, right. Just change your mind. Like, how long have we got left? We've got about 15 minutes left. What did Moby want to talk about? Time speeding up. I think we already talked about that at the beginning, but do you want to talk about that again?
Yeah, time is very, very subjective experience. Each of us experiences it differently and differently through different points in our life. I've had some weird experiences with time slowing down to a complete stop a couple times, and I've written about that in my books, which is really trippy if that ever happens to you. Seems like it
when
happens
time stops.
Yes, it did. Both when it was happening for me, the most memorable time I was following my husband, who had my oldest daughter on his shoulders, and she was bouncing, holding onto his hair. He was holding his suitcase and her suitcase. Babies have a lot of stuff, and ideally, he should not have been doing that. He should have had his one hand or two hands on her. He didn't. I was walking behind them, and I could see that she was bouncing, and then she started bending backwards, and she let go of his hair, and she was starting to fall. And that's when I could hear time slow down. I could hear it because I was in a train station with like a marble floor, and the click, click, click of high heels slowed down. It was like click, 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 and then click, click. Yeah, I can't even go that low. Like all the sounds went like that. And I was walking normally. I was several strides behind, but because I could walk normally and time was slowing to a stop for everything else, then I could catch my daughter with no problem. Thank goodness. I just dropped what I was holding and caught her. No problem. So it was beautiful. But time speeding up is what someone was asking about. And that's definitely something noticeable. I think for a lot of people, you can kind of get back into a natural state if you, because I'm reading into the time going too fast thing. My feeling of it is it's too fast. It's like things are just zooming. If it does, and I know what that feels like, and it does feel that way. I recommend spend time in nature as much as possible. Even if you feel like, but I don't have time for that, make time for it. Just, even if you don't have time, just take a coffee break outside. Even if it's raining, hopefully you've got a balcony or you can open a window, something. Just look at nature in some fashion. And it makes such a difference, because then it no longer does it feel like the whole thing is racing off without you and you're not aligned or connected. I'm taking a page out of the Hopi Prophecy Rock. Stay connected to the earth. Keep your relationships from your heart. Keep those heartfelt relationships with each other, with yourself, with nature. And because it does feel like it's going too fast. It's that energy on the planet. Again, it's like we're going through the collective kundalini, and that's all the cleanups and all the aisles. And it's like, what a mess, what chaos. And that's part of the whole time thing too. But
Yeah.
take time in nature, laugh.
Time in nature. I once heard Esther Hicks speaking to a woman who was in a bomb blast. And I've had clients and patients who were hit by cars, and just lots of stories of like during a traumatic experience time like yours, slowed right down. Ooh. And she said, you know, the woman that was in the bomb blast, she said that she could calculate the time to get away. Like just everything happened in this really slow, and she could get away before the blast hit her. She could run. And it just happened in this really, and the woman that was hit by a car, she said the same. She said she was lifted up in the air, and then she fell down to the earth really, really, really slowly, and just landed on the pavement. She was already smashed up because the car had hit her, but she didn't smash up more when she hit the pavement. It was like someone put her on the pavement. Anyway, so I've heard lots of stories like this, and I've asked my mob about it, and they've said to me about this reality being a dense reality, slow vibrational. To us, you're all in slow motion. They said to me, we're watching you all in slow motion. You think it's normal because you're inside this time matrix, but to us, you're all in slow motion. And I've gone, oh, wow. And I thought, because I've always had this feeling, Cynthia, since I was in my 40s, not in my 20s and 30s so much, but my 40s, like I was treading water, like throughout my life, like I'm treading water, like I'm in, just wait, I don't know, like waiting in this slow, in this really slow environment. Yeah, and I think in different environments, different planets, different dimensions, things are moving at a much quicker pace. And the new kids, like our kids come in, they think at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and we are just too slow for them. Yeah, our education system's too slow. Yeah, sorry, what do you want to say about that? Where we got?
Well,
10 minutes.
This interdimensional fun that's happening, because this is the fourth world to the fifth happening. You could think of it fourth dimension to the fifth dimension, which is 3 dimensions of time. Well, 3 of space plus 1 of time. That's 4, and we're moving into 5. So we're going to move into 4-dimensional space. That's going to like. For people that don't know what that looks like, flatland is 2 dimensions. So that's like the previous level before us. So if you have like, this is representing flatland, and I can see here's Mr. Circle and Mr. Square. And if they got in some sort of a scuffle and they're arguing with each other and one of them's hiding out, then I can see, oh, Mr. Circle's hiding in the closet. I'm looking from 3 dimensions on flatland, so it's easy to see. And if Mr. Square starts a fire on the piece of paper they live on, I can put that fire out just by putting my hand over it. Like, well, fire's out. I just suffocated it, like, because I don't want my 3D world burning. And we wonder sometimes, like, how are UFOs able to shut down a nuclear facility? How is it that when the nuclear tests were about to happen and then UFOs show up and then none of the nuclear stuff works? It's exactly like that. You're just looking at the interdimensionals. That's the key to the whole thing. And we are becoming interdimensional. We're moving from 3D to 4D. We're going to be the engineers of our own evolution in this process right now as we move from this fourth world to the fifth. And so it's happening now, and we'll be part of it. And it's very exciting. So what you're getting from your guides, I think there's going to be a feeling like these new kids that have they're very sharp, they're very fast, they're very interdimensional, and they understand these quantum superpowers that you can bilocate. You can teleport. These are things I write about in my book that have happened to me. They've happened at our conferences. We've had people bilocating at our conferences.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is stuff that we're moving into. We're evolving into it. We are becoming the ones that we've been waiting for. Because we sometimes wonder, where are the great masters? They're supposed to show up at this time of the Shambhala, the golden age. We are the great masters. We are the ones that are regaining the ability to recognize that we can keep ourselves lined up. We can bring, that perfect, how good can it get attitude. And Amazon can suddenly be working correctly for the person you're assisting. You're getting your parking spots right where you need them. Things are lining up. Everything.
Look,
how
that
can it get? Yeah.
That message of we're the ones that we've been waiting for. As I said, I was at this festival thing the other day talking to one of the speakers that'll be in the conference, and I'm going to pop him on the show. And he belongs to a group there was this Japanese guru guy who had written 3,500 books. Like, anyway, and he channeled all this amazing information in all these books. So he's telling me about this guy, but he died young. He died at 66, how many years ago? And so I started chatting to him in the middle. I said, why'd you die so young? And he's just said the same. You know, the era of the guru is finished. It's now time. Yes, I brought this information to Earth. It's all there in my books. But he created this community of people that worship him. And now they all want him to come back physically. And, you know, this whole guru worship, and you are the master and you have all the power. Yeah, sure, he's an extraordinary being that was here on Earth, but many of you are here. There are many, many. And he said that he had to leave to stop this whole guru worship thing. And, you know, like, read the information in the books, take on the lessons. Don't look to me to save you. You know, like, it was really interesting talking to this dead guy in the middle of this festival. But, yeah, we are the ones we've been waiting for. Sure, there are people, podcast shows and books and gurus who can give us information to remind us of our ultimate power. But we are the ones we've been waiting for. Oh, that's such an important message. Thank you for reminding us. We are remembering and becoming, multidimensional, absolutely. Teleportation. Have you ever been on any Portal to Ascension stuff? With Neil Gore? I didn't introduce you to Neil. So anyway, I was just talking at one of his conferences, the Awakening of Humanity had an 11-day conference, the massive 77 speakers. And I started talking about teleportation. I don't know. I just started talking about, and Neil came on, and the two of us were like talking about teleportation. I saw Deepak Chopra talk about it 30 years ago, that we live in a holographic universe, and when we understand that, we'll understand that we're all just, you know, holographic energy, and we can teleport ourselves anywhere on the planet, or in fact in the cosmos. And I was loving this conversation, but people were walking out in droves. They were just walking out of the conference. And I thought, go on.
Why would, I don't know why they'd walk out on it, because that's the science of the real magic. I was involved in an experiment that Dean Radin at Institute of Noetic Sciences created this year, the sigil experiment. I'll be talking about it at the conference. And it was working with an interferometer, and each of 50 people that were selected to be able to focus well enough, either meditators or magicians. It turns out Dean was sorting us into, like, are you a meditator? I think we're all meditators. Or do you have the ability to influence material reality? And so a lot of us, half of us, could influence the reality. And 9 times out of 10, I was highly successful. One time I did something a little different with that experiment. I thought, well, this is going so smoothly. If it's going great, I can probably get even better results if I run my Kundalini energy up high before I hit the start button. So I did that, and it was the worst thing ever, which I learned so much from the experiment, which is that obviously we're in it in the moment. And so a lot of the realities we might think we can select in advance, that's not the point. We're here to be in this present moment, right here, right now. Oh, there's that song.
We have run out of time, and I am going to finish today's show. I could talk to you for another 50,000 hours. I'm going to finish with the song that you were telling me about, How Good Can It Get, by Lisa Vivian on her YouTube channel, Lisa Vivian. And you gave her the words and she wrote the music. Is that how it goes?
It's based on an experience I had, which is where the phrase "How good can it get" came from. She asked me about that, and I was walking a labyrinth based on the Chartres Cathedral labyrinth, and it was here I live in California near San Francisco, so I was at the Grace Cathedral in San Francisco walking the labyrinth, and I was asking a question: how should I live my life? When I got to the center of the labyrinth, I just got a question back: what are you living for? That's when I realized I'm living for love. And this is a song about it.
Oh, can you hear that? Can everybody hear that? Thumbs up if you can. You can hear that? We see that. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear that, people in the chat. I'm playing it now. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's always such a blissful joy to be with you. You are just, love you so much. You are absolutely amazing, Cynthia Sue Larson. And love to come and be with you at the Mandela conference one day soon. And thanks everyone for tuning in. It's a bit quiet. It is a bit quiet. I'm going to turn it up in a minute. We've got a minute and a half left. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Big love to all of you, and I'll see you
Love
all
you.
again. I'm going to turn it up now so people can hear
Love
it.
you so much.
From a place of love you can never lose. It's inside of you. Oh, and it's inside of you. How good can it get? Yeah, how good can it get? Surround yourself with dreamers, doers and alike. You'll find something special if you look without your eyes. How good can it get? How good can it get?
Bye everyone.
Love you.